One perennial in my garden has flowered for 6 straight months. Same plant, same crown, from April to October without me doing anything to it. That plant is at number 2 on this list. The plant at number 1 is even better, but for a different reason. It has been on the market for over 30 years, and nothing the breeders have introduced since has replaced it. Not in the catalog, not in the trial garden, not in your grandmother's yard. These are the 14 longest blooming perennials in American gardening, the ones the trial gardens have been quietly endorsing for decades, while the catalogs were busy selling you the next short-lived hybrid. Most of them you have walked past at the garden center without giving them a second look. A few you have already planted and not realized how much bloom you are getting per square foot. One of them, by the time we get to number 1, you're going to want in the ground this week. The catalog perennial list is long. The trial garden list is short. This is the short list. Stay with me, and if this is useful, hit subscribe before we get to number 1. Number 14, Erigeron carvinskianus. Erigeron carvinskianus, the Mexican daisy, the Santa Barbara daisy, the Latin American fleabane. I have not seen another perennial that flowers this long. 8 inches tall, mat forming, and from April through November it is covered every single day in small white and pink daisy flowers that fade from white to pale pink to soft rose. Each individual flower lasts a few days. The plant produces them continuously. 7 months in the right zone. It blooms when peonies finish, when daylilies finish, when asters finish, and it keeps going until the first hard frost takes it down. Hardy in United States Department of Agriculture zones 7 through 9 in the ground, zone 8 in containers. In zones 5 and 6, you can grow it as an annual or in a pot you bring inside for the winter. It self-seeds gently into cracks between flagstones, gravel paths, the edges of stone walls. That is where it looks best, not in a tidy bed, but as the plant softening every hard edge in your garden. Plant 3 small divisions in April. By September of next year, you have a 4-foot drift of nonstop daisies. Number 13 is the bluest thing in my front yard for 5 months out of the year. Number 13, Veronica Royal Candles, Veronica spicata. Spike Speedwell, 18 inches tall. A tight cushion of glossy green foliage with vertical electric blue flower spikes. They look exactly like blue candles standing up out of the plant. Bees and small butterflies cluster on every spike every sunny morning from May through July. Here is the trick. Deadhead. Cut the spent spikes back to the foliage when they fade. The plant produces a second flush in August and sometimes a third in September. 5 months of blue from one 18-inch plant. Hardy zones 3 through 8, meaning most of the continental United States in the ground. Drought tolerant once established. Deer ignore it. I planted 3 divisions of royal candles in 2014 along a hot south-facing walkway. I have not done anything to those plants except cut them back twice a season. 12 years in, still the bluest thing in the front yard. The variety name matters here. There are dozens of named Veronica spicata cultivars. Royal Candles and Crater Lake Blue are the 2 with documented track records. The unnamed Veronica at the garden center may or may not perform. Number 12 smells like peppermint when you crush a leaf, and it is not mint. Number 12, Calamintha nippata White Cloud. Crush a leaf of Calamintha nippata between your fingers. Pure peppermint. This is not mint. Calamintha is in the mint family, Lamiaceae, but it is the polite cousin. Clump forming, no underground runners, no takeover. The plant stays exactly where you put it for 15 years. It reaches 16 inches tall and is covered from June through October in thousands of tiny pure white flowers held in airy clouds above small mint-scented leaves. Bumblebees and small native bees work it constantly. Hardy in USDA zones 5 through 7, and some sources extend that to zone 4 with mulch. Walker's low catmint is its small polite cousin in the same border. Calamintha nippata has been a regular in Mount Cuba Center's pollinator performance trials for years. They do not put plants in those trials lightly. If you want a plant that will bloom for 5 months and never spread, this is the cleanest example I know. Number 11 is the burgundy pincushion most American gardeners have never heard of. Number 11, Knautia macedonica. It is the plant nobody pronounces correctly the first time. The first time I saw the name printed on a nursery tag, I called it Nautica, like the boat brand. The owner of the garden center did not correct me. 24 to 30 inches tall, small wine red pincushion flowers on wiry stems held above gray-green foliage. It blooms from June through September, 4 straight months. The flowers look like miniature scabioses in deep burgundy red, and the color is what makes the plant. Most perennials bloom yellow, pink, white, or blue. Knautia is the burgundy. It self-sows gently. The seedlings are easy to pull or transplant. They do not get away from you the way echinacea seedlings do. USDA zones 5 through 9. Drought tolerant once established. Full sun, lean soil, because fertile soil produces too much foliage and too few flowers. You will not find this one at most American garden centers. It is sold mostly through native and specialty perennial nurseries. It is worth the search. Number 10 is the plant the taxonomists renamed, and most of you still call by the old name. Number 10, Oenothera lindheimeri whirling butterflies. Most of us still call this plant Gara. Taxonomists reclassified it to Oenothera a few years back. The plant is the same, and the variety on this list is whirling butterflies. It reaches 3 feet tall, with wiry stems carrying small pink and white flowers that look exactly like butterflies hovering above the foliage, and they bounce in the slightest breeze. It blooms May through October in mild climates and June through September in colder zones, giving 4 to 5 months of bloom from one plant. Hardy in zones 5 through 9 in the ground and zone 6 and warmer for containers. The plant is native to Texas and Louisiana. Drought tolerant, heat tolerant. It loves the conditions that kill most other long bloomers: full sun, lean soil, and sharp drainage. Plant it where you would not bother with a hosta. The reason it is at number 10 and not higher is that individual plants are short-lived. Each crown typically lasts 3 to 5 years, but it self-sows lightly, and the daughter plants come up exactly where you would plant new ones anyway. A short-lived perennial that perpetuates itself is functionally a long-lived perennial. Number 9 is the brightest coral flower in the early summer garden, and a viewer wrote in last week saying she wishes she had bought it instead of fancy coneflowers. Number 9, Gume Totally Tangerine, 24 inches tall. Vivid coral orange single flowers are held on tall, wiry stems above a low rosette of dark green leaves. Blooms April through July, with a second flush in September if you deadhead. 3 to 4 months total. The color is the reason it is on this list. Totally Tangerine is the brightest coral in the perennial garden, earlier than daylilies, brighter than most Coreopsis, and held on stems airy enough to blend into anything. Hardy USDA zones 4 through 8. Likes consistent moisture but not wet feet. Part shade in the south, full sun in the north. A viewer wrote in a few days ago saying she had just bought rainbow coneflowers and pow wow berry coneflowers, both fancy echinacea hybrids, and was heading back to the nursery to return them. I see you. If you want bright coral in early summer, Totally Tangerine is the one I would bring home instead. 5-year track record in trial gardens. 12 weeks of bloom. Done. Number 8 is the yarrow that does not revert to plain white, and the one I recommended on my last regret video. Number 8, Achillea Coronation Gold, reliable golden yarrow. If you watched the regret video, you know I called out the fancy yarrow hybrids, Strawberry Seduction, Paprika, Pink Grapefruit, for losing their color and reverting to plain white by year 3. Coronation Gold is the one that does not. Bred by the German plantsman Heinz Klose around 1953, 3 feet tall, bright golden yellow flat flower heads, 4 inches across, June through September, 4 months of bloom from a single division. The flowers dry on the stem and hold ornamentally through October. USDA zones 3 through 9, cold hardy, heat tolerant, drought proof. Deer ignore it. The species form Achillea millefolium, and the heritage cultivars like Coronation Gold are reliable for 15 plus years in most American zones. The fancy color hybrids are not. If you brought home one of the fancy yarrows this spring, return it. Buy Coronation Gold instead. Same $15. A plant that performs for the next 2 decades. This is the upgrade I covered as the alternative on the regret video. It is on this list because the trial garden agrees. Quick one before number 7. After my last regret video, some of you wrote in, pushing back. You said your hollyhocks bloom every year. Your heucheras come back. Your foxgloves naturalize beautifully. One viewer wrote that just because it does not work for you does not mean it does not work for everyone else. She is right. Different climates produce different results. Here is what is also true. The trial gardens test these plants across multiple zones, multiple soil types, and multiple climates for years. The 14 plants on this list have been documented in thousands of American gardens, in zones from 3 through 9. They are not here because they work in my yard. They are here because they work across most of the country. Another viewer wrote that the garden industry has turned to lying to make sales. Do not trust them. This list is what trust looks like. And if you have not yet, subscribe. Number 7 is the perennial that fills the September gap. Nothing else fills. Number 7, Helenium Mardi Gras. Sneezeweed. The common name is misleading. The plant does not cause sneezing. The Latin name Helenium autumnale hints at the actual story. Native Americans used the dried foliage as snuff. 42 inches tall. Daisy-like flowers in copper, orange, gold, and red, multiple colors on a single plant, late July through October. 3 months of late summer fireworks when most perennials are winding down. The plant picks up where coneflowers end. USDA zones 3 through 8. Native to North American wet meadows, meaning it likes consistent moisture and tolerates clay soil that kills most other long bloomers. Pollinators love this plant. Late season migrating monarchs work it through October. Fall flying bees use it as their last reliable nectar source. Stake the taller varieties, they flop. Or use the compact selection short and sassy, which is half the height and self-supporting. Either way, you get the bridge from coneflower to aster, the perennial that fills the September gap nothing else fills. Number 6 is one I covered in my low maintenance video, and it earned a spot on this list too for a specific reason. Number 6 is Salvia May Night, Salvia sylvestris. It was the Perennial Plant Association Plant of the Year in 1997. I covered May Night in my low maintenance video last week. It is on this list for the same reason it was on that one. It does not quit. 18 inches tall, dense violet blue flower spikes from late May through June. Then, after the first flush, the trick is to take head shears and cut the top third off the entire plant in mid-June. 3 weeks later, you get a second wave. Continue light deadheading through August, and you get a third. 5 months of violet blue from one division. USDA zones 4 through 8, drought resistant. Deer ignore it. Bumblebees swarm every spike. The variety name matters. May Night and Caradonna are the two with documented long bloom track records. The unnamed Salvia X sylvestris at the garden center may or may not perform the same way. This plant and royal candles together give you blue from late May through September. Plant both. The bees will know. Number 5 is the plant I called fast spreading on an earlier video. And there is a reason it is also on the longest blooming list. Number 5 is Catmint Walker's Low, Nepeta racemosa. It was the Perennial Plant Association Plant of the Year in 2007. I called this plant a fast spreader on an earlier video, and that is true. Walker's Low spreads. The flip side of that habit is it blooms longer than almost any other perennial in the American garden. It grows 24 to 30 inches tall. Clouds of lavender blue flower spikes appear from late April through October. 6 months of bloom with 2 cutbacks per season. The plant is named low because the breeder thought it stayed low. The breeder was wrong. It is medium height, but the bloom time is what made it the 2007 Plant of the Year. USDA zones 4 through 8, drought tolerant, deer resistant. Bumblebees swarm every flower spike from May through September. If your Walker's Low is too aggressive in your border, switch to Cat's Pajamas, the compact version I covered in my low-maintenance video. Half the size, same bloom period, no flopping. The point, long blooming and fast spreading are not opposites. They are often the same trait. The plants that put out flowers continuously are usually the plants that grow continuously. Pick the right variety, and you get the bloom without the takeover. Number 4 is the Black-Eyed Susan. You have seen in every parking lot and every hospital landscape in America. This is Black-Eyed Susan Goldsturm, Rudbeckia fulgida. It was the Perennial Plant Association Plant of the Year in 1999. The plant reaches 24 to 30 inches tall with golden yellow daisy flowers around dark chocolate brown center cones, blooming from July through October. You can expect 3 to 4 months of bloom from a single division. The seed heads stand through winter, feeding finches on cold January mornings. This is the commercial Black-Eyed Susan. Every American hospital landscape, every office park courtyard, every municipal planting from Maine to California has used Goldsturm somewhere in the last 30 years. There is a reason. The plant works in any soil that drains, in light from full sun to half shade, and in almost any climate, from zone 3 through 9. If you have ever seen a 4-foot drift of Black-Eyed Susans glowing gold in late August, that is Goldsturm. Plant 5 divisions in a row in April. By August of next year, you have the same drift in your own yard. Plant 3, plant 5, the math scales. Quick one before the top 3. A viewer asked why I do not include growing zones for each plant. Fair point. All 11 plants we have covered so far are hardy USDA zones 5 through 8 in the ground. Most extend to zone 3 or 4 for cold hardiness, and most extend to zone 9 for warm hardiness. That covers most of the United States. For containers, knock one zone colder. A zone 5 perennial becomes a zone 4 perennial in a pot. The roots are exposed to colder air all winter, freeze-thaw cycles, and they dry out faster. Another viewer wrote that there is no such thing as a one-and-done plant. She is right. There is such a thing as plant once, divide every 5 years, bloom every May for 30 years. That is what plant once means in real life. A different viewer wrote about her blue star, Amsonia hubrichtii, planted 4 years ago, calling it the most unique plant in her garden. She is right too. Blue Star is not on this list because the bloom is short, but she found something that works for her, and she watched it for years. Build the list you need. Number 3 is the daylily that retired with my parents in 1994. Number 3, the daylily Stella d'Oro, Hemerocalis. I covered Stella d'Oro as the #1 container perennial in my pots video. It is at number 3 on this list because for bloom duration alone, only 2 perennials in American horticulture beat it. It stands 12 inches tall with buttery yellow trumpet flowers 2.5 inches across. Each individual flower lasts 1 day. The plant produces them continuously from late May through October. 5 months of yellow from 1 crown. The American Hemerocalis Society awarded Stella d'Oro the Stout Silver Medal in 1985, the highest honor in daylily breeding. 41 years later, it is still the best-selling daylily in America. There is a reason. USDA zones 3 through 9, cold hardy to 40 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit. Heat hardy to zone 9. Drought proof. Deer mostly pass it. Diseases mostly pass it. The plant works in every American climate zone except the deep tropics. Plant 3 crowns in April. Cut back spent stalks once in November. That is the entire annual maintenance schedule. 5 months of bloom every year for the next 2 decades. Number 2 is the longest blooming hardy perennial in the entire American horticultural tradition. 6 months out of 1 plant. Number 2, Geranium Rozanne, a hardy geranium. It was the Perennial Plant Association Plant of the Year in 2008. This is the plant I told you about in the hook. The one in my own garden that has flowered for 6 straight months without me doing anything to it. That is Rozanne, 18 to 24 inches tall, low and sprawling. Violet blue, saucer-shaped flowers with white centers 3 inches across from May through first frost. 6 to 7 straight months of bloom. Nothing else in the entire American hardy perennial palette comes close. The plant was discovered as a chance seedling in an English garden in the 1990s and introduced commercially around 2000. By 2008, it had won every major perennial award available. 26 years later, it is still on every trial garden's recommended list. USDA zones 5 through 9, sun to part shade, sterile hybrid, meaning it does not seed itself out into your yard. The plant puts all its energy into flowers, not into babies. I covered Rozanne in my fast-spreading video as a well-behaved spreader. It is number 2 on this list because nothing else reliably blooms for 7 months out of 1 season. If you have only room for one hardy geranium in your entire garden, buy this one. The named cultivar matters. Rozanne, not just any geranium. Number 1 is the plant that started the trial garden movement in American gardening. 34 years on the market. Still the answer. Number 1, Coreopsis Moonbeam. Coreopsis verticillata Moonbeam was named the 1992 Perennial Plant Association Plant of the Year, one of the very first plants the program ever honored, and in my opinion, the most consequential perennial ever introduced to American horticulture. It grows to 2 feet tall. Threadleaf foliage looks like dill, holding form through wind, rain, and drought. From late May through October, 5 straight months, it produces pale lemon-yellow daisy flowers 1 inch across, by the hundreds, not by the dozen, by the hundreds. There is no plant on this list that produces more individual flowers per square foot than Moonbeam, USDA zones 3 through 9. Drought-resistant, deer-resistant, it spreads gently into a 3-foot clump in 4 years, cut back to half height in mid-July. The plant produces a second full wave by mid-August. Deadheading is optional. The plant blooms either way. Alan Armitage, longtime professor at the University of Georgia, has called Moonbeam the cheap petunia of perennials. It bloom bombs like a petunia, but it lives like an oak. 34 years on the market, still the bestseller, still the trial garden's first answer to what is the longest blooming perennial in American horticulture. 14 perennials. Trust the trial garden, not the catalog. Plant Rozanne once, divide every 5 years, watch it bloom from April to first frost for the next 2 decades. Plant Moonbeam once, cut it back in July, watch it bloom from May through October for the next 30 years. That is what plant once means in real life, not zero work, just the right work on the right schedule, on the right plant. Drop a comment with the longest blooming perennial in your garden and how many years it has been there. The old long bloomers have the best stories. Subscribe before you leave. The next video is the 3rd regret list nobody is talking about. Invasive ground covers most American gardeners inherited and cannot remove. You will want this one.